As soon as you put two men together, they are not going to talk about how the one is weaker than the other. So anything that would potentially put a man in a defensive or a down position is not going to be discussed.
At that very specific moment, I was probably one of the lowest moments in my life. Seeing everybody kind of have it together, I was like, I'm just gonna get exposed. That's not a good feeling in a sense. At the time, I didn't understand that it was probably the best thing that could happen. But that fear of being exposed or being called out, it was gonna be something unpleasant.
I think a big piece of my faith was because of having the right men accountable versus in the past where not that they didn't know how to, but maybe they weren't accountable to themselves. And because of that, we couldn't help each other.
There's a personality of vulnerability, of realness, of true connection and brotherhood. I think that's the biggest thing that men's groups are missing. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Operation Redwood. I'm here with the crew, and there's too many of them now because we're going to individually introduce each one, but you know who they are. You see them on the show, and you're going to be hearing from them today. We're going to be talking about what are the things that aren't discussed in a typical men's group. Typically, when you say men's group, when we talk about men's group, it's usually referring to the church. Now, I think it's really interesting as we hear the insight from all these other guys. What are things that you probably wouldn't bring up in a men's group, regardless if it's your first time or not? Samuel, either of you have something
I don't want to bring up
that you don't want to bring? Yeah, you want to share right now that you don't want to bring up?
I have this itchy rash between my. No, just kidding. I don't want to bring that. You have any suggestions? No.
Wash yourself. Wash yourself is usually number one.
Hygiene is
Hygiene is usually
cleanliness
the first
is
thing.
next to godliness. I've heard. So generally, like when I was hearing this topic, I was thinking about anything that has to do with being vulnerable. As soon as you put two men together, they are not going to talk about how the one is weaker than the other. So anything that would potentially put a man in a defensive or a down position is not going to be discussed. So I probably would not talk about cars. I would not talk about sports statistics. I was talking to Michael the other day and saying, like, I don't have a clue. I just, like, my brain has never worked that way. So, I mean, those are sort of silly examples, but then we can start getting into, I'm failing with my kids. I feel like I don't know how to raise them. I'm screwing up my relationship with my wife. I have a terrible love life. I feel like an imposter at my job. I just show up every day and I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, I could go on, but I mean, that's a great introduction.
I love that. Chip, you've said this example a couple times already, and you talk about your first day coming into Redwood, and you're kind of like, "Wow, I don't need this." What was it in your mind that was like, I don't need it? What was it that was causing that I don't need this?
Fear of exposure. And what I mean by that is that I knew I'm going to walk into something where at that very specific moment, I was probably one of the lowest moments in my life. Seeing everybody kind of have it together, I was like, I'm just going to get exposed. It's not a good feeling in a sense. Meaning at the time, I didn't understand that it was probably the best thing that could happen. But that fear of being exposed or being called out, it was going to be something unpleasant. And what I mean by that, a quick example, right? When you talk to somebody and you see that their life is somewhat way more together than yours, well more strategized, or their head is screwed on right. It's almost this feeling, and I wouldn't know if jealousy is the right term, but I feel like because of a man, right, like it's this competitive mindset that I want to achieve that. But what our brain doesn't process is that maybe this person that you're talking, maybe it took them 10 years, 20 years to get to that stage in their life or in whatever they may be. And we want that quick fix, like right then and there. Like we want sometimes what people have accomplished in, like I said, a decade or two for us to do it in months. And it's just not possible. Wisdom doesn't come, I wish, but I think wisdom comes with time. And we put that pressure and that stress that, well, if he can do it, I can do it too. But yeah, but that person that you're talking to also had his fair share of failures, had his fair share of downfalls that kept getting them get better and better every time he got out. But our brain doesn't process that. Our brain just like, oh, well, he's got everything together, so I got to do what he's doing. But to do what he's doing, there's a process. And are we ready to go through that? Because for some, they had to go down through that valley, through those bumpy roads. They chose the road less traveled by, that they made it that far. Because some people are just, that's why the Bible is very clear, right? Be transformed by the renewal of your mind. Don't be conformed to the world, but be transformed.
That's good. That's really good. And I appreciate that wisdom. And not that you don't have it, Mike, but it just makes me think, like, because you talk about time and wisdom, you're the youngest guy here in the group. What's your perception of men's group before and after, kind of seeing how we do things here a little bit differently at Redwood? What's been the perception of you and the value of a men's group?
The biggest one I've noticed, like I've only been in one men's group and currently this is it, right? So this is awesome. But one thing I do notice outside with, say, like my friends or just other men that I'm around, how they go through this damage, right? And yet it's not talked about. I grew up in primarily a household of women, from my inner house to my cousins. So talking about emotions was a little bit easier growing up. But then when you go to my friends, they can have something that just happened to them, and I wouldn't know until a year later. And it's like, wait, you went through this? Why didn't you reach out? Oh, I was fine. And then when you piece it back, I see them. Oh yeah, they were kind of in the bottle a little more than usual. These are kind of signs. Like they struggle silently. I notice a lot, right? One thing I've noticed with this men's group is just it's a safer area to be more vulnerable with each other, because I think at this point we've all accepted that we don't have it all together. We all have our struggles and we share those struggles. But I think with men, until you open that door, it just stays closed.
That was a beautiful answer. I think it goes to what Samuel was saying, that vulnerability, and what Chip said, exposure. Those are the things that are keeping us from really interacting with each other. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago, the mask that we wear. Fortunately, that mask for some guys never come off. Instead of being a mask that you take off, it becomes part of who they are already. And it's just bullshit from there.
Vulnerability is the fertile soil that makes relationships grow. However, evil wants us to believe that vulnerability is going to shut down and push us away. It's the first lie. Well, it's the first tactic, I should say, that Satan uses in the garden. So the first thing that man and woman, Adam and Eve, discover once their eyes are opened, once they understand good and evil, is that they did something bad. So we have to hide. And we have been hiding ever since. We have been running from God ever since. And what do you remember? I'll tell you, but do you remember the first thing that God asked Adam after he ate the apple? Where are you? Where are you? Yeah, what's up, right? Where are you? So God is like trying to draw him back, like instantaneously. The first thing God wants is like, come, be vulnerable with me. And Adam is like, the woman you gave me, blame the woman you gave me. She screwed it up, right? It's her fault. And we had to hide, right? So what I'm going at with this is there's this, because of the work I do, right? So if you don't know, I'm a therapist. When people come in and risk this vulnerability, that's the change that happens. It's the first thing that happens. And it's the fertile soil that makes everything grow. The risk. So this is a quote from Anais Nin. She's I might be pronouncing her name wrong, but she says, it sort of goes like, everything will change or growth happens when the risk of remaining tight in the bud, like a flower, is less than the possibility of opening up, because that's the only way you get to see a flower is when it blossoms. So there's a risk in staying tight, and there's also a risk in opening up. So which risk do you want to take? You decide.
But to what you said,
And
Sam,
most men's groups decide to remain totally closed. Go ahead, Chip.
no, sorry, I didn't know you. Just to piggyback a little bit to what you said earlier about, when the first thing that God asked Adam, what was the question? It was obviously like, where are you? And the second one, when Adam responded, where are you? The second question that God asked is like, who told you you were naked? Basically, because Adam asked like, we were naked, so we were shameful, so that's why we hid. And then God is like, well, who told you that you were naked? Because it says like they didn't even know that they were naked, meaning like their shame was not exposed. And I think obviously you said it, but it wasn't the shame word. But I feel like that's why a lot of times as men, right? We talked about this before. Our biggest fear is failure. So when we tend to fail, we have the shame and there's no accountability. It's easier to blame somebody, like Adam. Adam blamed Eve. Eve blamed the snake, and there was no accountability there. So, well, why did you fail? Even in a relationship, right? Even at work, we always tend to find the ifs. Well, if this was like this, or if that wouldn't have happened. But it's just, well, no. The question is it's like, what part did I play in that failure? Because I had a part. I'm not supposed to be worried about, what my wife's, like, God is going to hold her accountable for her part or whatever that. I'm just giving an example. So, yeah, just a little thought of.
I think that's so good because that lack of accountability almost really goes hand in hand with the lack of responsibility, where it's never me. It's always somebody else. How many men have we seen, whether it's their marriage or, business or personal, whatever, right? But they're lacking the responsibility to step into there and take actual ownership.
I was going to just add a little, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. It was just because who you associate yourself with. If you associate yourself with people that are just going to tell you, even though you're doing things wrong and they applaud you for it, how do you know that you're doing wrong? You're just going to keep doing it. But the minute you surround yourself with people that are not afraid to call you out on it, life is just different. But we don't want that, because we want people to like cheer us up and be on the sideline and applaud us than to rather to call us out and redirect us onto the right path.
I think those are the relationships I look for the most in now, is the guys who are willing to call it out as they see it. And really that also, if you have to take a step back, you've got to make sure, for me at least, I want to make sure the guys who are going to call me out on stuff actually have the fruit to do it. Because you're going to have some regular Joe Schmo off the street that you don't know, you have no real relationship capital with, and they call you out. You guys know me. My mindset is like, who the are you? But if it's someone you do have a relationship with, who you trust, who you've shared life with, when they call you out, if any of you three men call me out on something, I'll actually stop and think about that more, because there's more weight behind your words.
You've gone through it together with them, right? So I was thinking about that, Angela, as you're talking. I'm going back to the original topic of what do you not share in a men's group, but I was taking it a little bit of it in a different direction. So some people don't share in men's groups because the men's group is set up as showing your wisdom or how good you are. So like, this guy can quote the Bible over here really well, or this guy can tell you how to shoot a gun, or like, and I'm talking about my men's groups that are in the country, right? And so like, I don't shoot guns. Like, it's just like not my thing. And I don't understand cars, and I don't really love sports statistics. So those are all things that are like comfortable topics. And in that men's group, like, maybe there is a guy that really wants to share something and say like, man, I don't know how, like, I have a faucet that leaks at home, or I have and I know these are supposed to be spiritual things, but I'm trying to make it a little bit more simplistic but that guy isn't going to talk because he doesn't feel safe, because this guy over here is saying, well, he's going to make him feel like, well, that's simple. You should know how to do that, right? So maybe this guy says like, how should I start reading the Bible? And this other guy goes, well, you should know that, or like, how should I lead someone to Christ, right? And somebody really wants to, and I mean, I think there is sadly a lot of unintentional silencing of people in men's groups because they're presented as authoritative versus like you've got to come in with it all together, instead of, I think one of the things that Mike is saying and Angelo you're adding is, I think what we have built here is like, no, we don't have it together. We're just trying to learn life with each other, and we've done it alone and it didn't work so great. It wasn't working out for us. But Angelo, I think one of the things you said in that is, you have to come to a place of surrender in yourself for that.
Yes.
Right. To understand that, hey man, I tried it and it just didn't work out the way that I wanted it to. One of the reasons I'm a part of this group, and I know I'm talking a lot here, but one of the reasons I'm a part of this group, and my wife said it, she's like, you serially look for groups. And I think I finally found my home, but there was something lacking, and exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm sorry if you watch this and you are local to me, but this is what I'm talking about that was lacking. It didn't feel safe to be vulnerable. It didn't feel safe to come in and say, I don't have all the answers, but I really want to explore it together. And that's not a criticism to any one person. Like, groups get a personality.
What a line. I love that last line. You said a lot of really good stuff, but that last line, groups have a personality. I think you look at it, and actually, Mike, I like
organizations that our organization has a personality.
100%. And like what you were saying earlier, you're like, oh, never been in a men's group, but you've been in a group of men, which is the same thing. And just, you didn't label it as a, hey guys, we're going to have a men's group meeting tonight. You're like, bro, what are you talking about? We're going to go grab some pizza and beers. What are you talking about? But you've been in a group setting before with other men. Same exact thing. That group will take a personality. And if there's a personality of vulnerability, of realness, of true connection and brotherhood, I think that's the biggest thing that men's groups are missing. Because the typical men's group, now we go back to actually talking about the church men's group. I've been part of so many, and same thing. I was kind of looking for that tribe, that group of men, but a lot of brother holies that have been around. A lot of, hey, I'm gonna pray for you. Hey, you know what? God's got this. And I appreciate the prayer, and I know that God's got this. But what else? That was my biggest issue, because now I'm the messed up guy. I feel like everyone else's lives are all straight and narrow, and I'm over here just broken.
And the church and men's groups should be places for the broken. That's what Jesus said. I came for the sick. I didn't come for the healthy. I came to set up a hospital. That fronting that happens in many men's groups, I understand it, right? I get it. And if that's the personality of your men's group, I get it. But there are other places where there is fertile soil.
Mike, what's your biggest takeaway with being part of a group like this, where maybe the standards are a little bit different, the expectations are maybe a little bit different?
I think a big piece is like what you said in the past or earlier about accountability. Like, I've shared with you some things that I'm trying to be accountable of myself that I've shared with other people before. But as soon as I give one excuse, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, no problem, right? But I know if I try giving you guys an excuse, listen, for real, come on, let's get back to it, right? And I think a big piece of my faith, it was because having the right men accountable of me, versus in the past where not that they didn't know how to, but maybe they weren't accountable to themselves. And because of that, we couldn't help each other.
Or take accountability for yourself, or take responsibility for yourself. 2 things that men are just not doing, especially in today's culture. So Samuel, what's the last word that someone who's listening, who's watching right now, what do you want them to know? If they took nothing else away from this episode, from this recording, what is the one thing they should know?
Yeah, it's what's on my heart right at the end. And I think this is timely. And, what's on my heart right now is like for men, much like Angela, much like myself and Michael, I think you just landed on it the first time. Lucky you. That are still searching for more. Don't give up. It's out there. It's out there. Pray about it. Talk to your pastor or elders about it, but don't give up and be the change, right? Be the change in that group. And maybe it's going to take leaving the group that you're in to start a new one. Or if you're sitting there listening to this and going like, man, I don't have anything like that. I don't have anything like that. There's nowhere I can be vulnerable. There's nowhere. Then pray about it and start it. Start it with 2 people. That's all that's necessary, right? Create it the way it should be, right? So I guess the last word is don't lose heart, don't lose hope, and don't give up. It took me probably 25 years to find it.
Mike was just like right in the door. He's like, just one. I love that. And you hit it right on the money, both of you guys. And for me, it's like, be the change you wish to see. If you don't have a men's group, if you don't have the network, if you like, why not think about internally first? If you don't have that brother to do life with, be someone worth doing life with. So I appreciate you, gentlemen. Thank you for showing up. As always, we'll see you guys next week. Redwood out.